Hello, my name is Toby, and welcome back to another of our videos dissecting the sport, the great sport of American politics, looking at polling and data. Again, this is a non-partisan video. Of course I have political views, we all have political views. However, and we've all got to take account for our own biases. However, what I'm aiming to do here, I'm aiming to bring you dispassionate data that you should be satisfied with, whether you're on the left, you're on the right, you're on the centre, you're a neoliberal, you're a nationalist, right-wing populist, you're a left-wing populist, you're a democratic socialist, whatever you are, I am aiming to provide you with data. I am not intending to push any sort of political agenda. The topic of today's video is President Biden's approval rating and why, going by historical precedent, it can and probably will rebound from the lower point it is now at, the lower ebb it is now at. So, what's the story of Joe Biden's approval rating? Well, it is the story, as it always is with the presidency, of an accumulation of crises. Joe Biden came into office with decent approval ratings. Now, this is not the sort of honeymoon that Barack Obama got. 65 approved, 25 disapproved. That's huge, right? That's huge. That's Obama's first month in office. First couple months in office, he had a 2 months of 60-20. 60 approved, 20 disapproved. Now, politics is much more partisan now, and it is probably impossible to have a rating as good as that. In many ways, the initial ratings for Biden here, the first few days, that's probably as good as it can plausibly get, right? That's probably as low as his disapproved was ever going to get. That's probably 55, or around about 55. That's probably about as high as his approval rating can ever go, unless something exceptional happens. Maybe if it was sort of wartime or something, maybe it would push up to 60, but I can't really see at any point during Biden's presidency he'll crack 60, and I can't see disapprove going any lower than 35. I think that's the ceiling. Now, where's the floor? That's a different question. But as we see over time, obviously it polarizes, Republican attacks increase, and it becomes real, right? It's not an abstract concept. Biden is the president. Disapprove ticks up to about 40. That's about the size of President Trump's base. They're going to vote Republican no matter what. That's the sort of spread we're looking at. Now, it narrows. Why did it begin to narrow? Well, it began to narrow as a result of COVID spreading. Biden sold himself as, I'm going to deal with COVID. COVID began to spread. Republican attacks increased on Democratic priorities in the House and Senate. But mainly COVID, that's the realest thing, right? Began to narrow. Now, what really tipped the balance here? Well, what really tipped the balance here is the situation in Afghanistan. The situation in Afghanistan became a crisis of confidence in the Biden administration. Voters backed the concept of withdrawing from Afghanistan, but because of massively negative media coverage, and Biden's had very favourable media treatment, some would say too favourable, the media swung the other way. All liberal, conservative media all went against the Biden administration's handling of the crisis. Republican attacks increased. Attacks within the Democratic Party increased. And you see, it tips the approval rating into the negative. And now we're at the point where it's basically 2% disapprove, right? It's -2 for Biden's approval rating. Will it go lower? If these crises continue, if COVID continues to spread, wrangling about that continues to draw out, we could be in for a long winter with the Afghanistan situation as well. If there are any developments in that direction, any negative optics with regards to the Taliban, it's looking bad for President Biden. Now, what does the precedent tell us? Well, the precedent tells us Donald Trump's a tricky one to go for the precedent with, because he was a historically unpopular president right through his presidency. He begins with a rating about here. Then for the rest of his presidency, he's in the negative. Straight in 2017, it's not looking good. By this point in 2017, his first year, he was on 56 disapprove and 37 approve, which is obviously a whole lot worse than what Biden is having to deal with right now. However, Barack Obama, at this point in his presidency, was at about +10 approve, which is obviously very good. If Biden had these ratings now, we'd be talking about a Democratic Senate in 2022. We'd be talking about probably a 60-40 chance of losing the House, not a 90-10 chance of losing the House. That's where you'd want to be. Now, thing about Obama is, as we see, look, it levels out. There's lots of negatives. Heading into the midterms, it's sort of split 50-50, and this doesn't bode well for Joe Biden. We'll talk about the implications for the midterms at a later video, a video I'm probably going to put up later today. As we can see, Barack Obama does end up really in the negative, but it bounces back, it goes back, and it's sort of the give and take of the presidency. Maybe it is pretty plausible that no matter what happens, Joe Biden's going to spend a lot of time underwater. That doesn't bode well for congressional Democrats, but it would follow the traction of standard American politics, the normal laws of political gravity. Now, will these ratings rebound? In my opinion, yes. The reason for that is when Afghanistan is out the headlines, and if COVID is more under control next year, whether that's down to Joe Biden or someone else, that's a matter of opinion. But when those sort of things are less regularly in the headlines, if they become less regularly in the headlines, Joe Biden's approval ratings will probably rebound. I do not think they'll go back to where they were there, but I think we could see something more like this. Sort of a tip to narrowly positive from narrowly negative. And I think it will recover over time. I don't think we're in for permanent negative ratings, although we well could be. If the crises just grow and accumulate and it continues. It could be like one of those periods of the Obama presidency where he was underwater for a good few months, although it did take him nearly 2 years in office. Well, 1.5 years to get to that point. August 2010. So it's tricky. Heading into February of his second year in office, he still had +2 ratings. So Biden, he had a lower level to fall from, but he's fallen quite far already. Time will tell what happens. His ratings probably will recover, but we'll have to wait and see. And coming up later today, I'll be putting up a video talking about the consequences of this for the midterms in 2022. What does Biden's approval rating do about the midterms? What is the relationship between Biden's approval ratings and the chances for the Democrats of keeping the House, the Senate, or both? Thank you for watching. I've been Toby, and I'll speak to you soon.